moment that you knew that like this version of life that I'm living, it just isn't it for me anymore?
I've always been the underdog. I've always been the odd one out, even growing up. Not just because people will automatically look at me and their assumption is that I have a lazy eye, but instead I actually am only seeing you in one eye. The other one's not even real. It's a prosthetic eye.
What did you learn about the world?
I think I learned that the world can be cruel. Yeah, you should stay to the end, especially if you are listening in this day and age where you're like, something gotta give, something gotta change, and something will move you, not just inspire you, to do something about your life.
What is the one thing that you would say to somebody who is on the fence?
Yeah, listen to your gut and make a plan and work the plan. It doesn't have to be, I'm gonna pack up my house, put everything in storage, and just dip. Go to the country that's calling you first. Figure out why it's calling you first, so that then when you come back, you can then say, okay, this is exactly what I'm doing.
Excellent, excellent. So, hey, welcome to the UnCultured show. If you've been here before, you know that we are talking all about you, your work, where you live, how you're doing things, and coming into this version of the uncommon life. If you've been following for a while, you know that we are doing the work and relocation series. And so, first up, we have our very, very first guest, and we're so excited to have her here. This is Zaakirah Nayyar Muhammad, and we're very excited that she's here. I'm going to read you her entire bio because it's so impressive, and you don't want to miss a piece of this. Zaakirah Nayyar Muhammad is a Nairobi-based, globally rooted cultural travel strategist and creative brand consultant. As a childhood eye cancer survivor, she founded See Life Different, a multimedia platform and podcast dedicated to helping underrepresented voices reclaim their stories and shine. Her work blends branding, photography, and holistic coaching to guide clients through clarity, confidence, and purpose. This is the part that got me, y'all. Zaakirah is the author of Seeing Life Through a Different Lens, a TEDx speaker, and a trusted voice in inclusive entrepreneurship. Whether speaking publicly, hosting retreats in East Africa, or empowering clients online, she centers joy, spirituality, and cultural pride in all she does. Born in the U.S., Zaakirah has traveled across the U.S., the Caribbean, Europe, and Africa. Now you know why she's here. She now bridges the gap between soulful storytelling and ethical tourism. With over 10 years of experience in photography, media, and wellness, Zaakirah doesn't just guide journeys, she designs them for legacy, reflection, and community. Her Nairobi-based operations connect travelers to authentic Kenyan experiences, highlighting local artisans, food, faith, and Black heritage, while also consulting with international travel brands who want to create more inclusive, sensory aware, and culturally respectful offerings. Y'all, welcome to the room, Miss Zaakirah Nayyar Muhammad. We are so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us on the show and coming into our little uncultured ecosystem.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a minute since I've heard the intro like that, so I was like, go girl.
I mean, but listen, when I read it, I was like, I have got to have this woman on the show first and foremost and like right away. So thank you for being here. And I know that we have a lot to kind of cover and to talk through, but just right off the bat, if someone stays to listen to this entire conversation all the way to the end, what is it that they'll walk away with after hearing more about your story? Like, tell them why they should stay till the end to hear it.
Yeah, you should stay to the end, especially if you are listening in this day and age where you're like, something gotta give, something gotta change, and something will move you, not just inspire you, to do something about your life.
Yeah, that's well said, because I think, I'm steeped in all the data these days where what we see now is that like 90% of people give up on their dreams. Only 23% of people are actually satisfied with like the work that they're doing. And my whole big supposition is that if you are spending 80% of your life on something and you hate it, so only 23% of the people are saying that they like it, then your life probably ain't great. But what was it for you? What was the moment that you knew that like this version of life that I'm living, it just isn't it for me anymore? It doesn't fit anymore.
I've always been the underdog. I've always been the odd one out, even growing up. Not just because people will automatically look at me and their assumption is that I have a lazy eye, but instead I actually am only seeing you in one eye. The other one's not even real. It's a prosthetic eye. So I think just growing up, I've always noticed I'm the underdog. I'm the one that stands out, and just being the chosen one anyway, as the one that most people come to for their problems anyway. They want somebody to listen to, and they happen to choose me, even if they don't even know me. So I think I had to really self reflect at such a young age to really realize, like, yeah, I can't keep trying to go sit at the table with the popular girls or go be with the jocks because I'm not them, right? So I think it really did kick in at that age, with between the age of like 7 to 16, when you're going through all of the things and puberty is hitting and the girls are doing what the girls do, forming their little groups and things of that sort. So it was also about that same age where I was really getting my first trips also to
Mm-hmm.
different parts of the U.S. And my first international trip, actually, I was a freshman in high school. So I
Okay.
think between the school age, I just knew something got to give, something different about me, and I can't keep trying to fit into that box.
Yeah, I really want to take a minute with that, if that's okay, because there's something in that. Your situation is different, right? And so the beauty, I think, always of talking to somebody who has, and I don't know how you see it now, but the benefit of being called out to stand out different means that you are really indoctrinated into the rebellion early. So your quality of life, while experiencing a sacrifice early in your life, but your quality of life now, because you're making that choice to live fully, it's just such an interesting intersection. So I want to kind of talk about that for a minute before I move on to the travel things. Do you mind talking to us about like your diagnosis and that process and your recovery and what you learned about yourself and the world in that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a childhood eye cancer survivor of a rare childhood cancer called retinoblastoma, and it is a cancer of the eye essentially. And thank goodness to technology and research, it can easily be detected even in the mother's womb. But at the time that I was diagnosed, I was first diagnosed at my 6 month checkup, and then my mom had to get a second opinion because the pediatrician at the time was just saying, "Don't worry about it. There's nothing to worry about." But
Wow.
the first visual symptom that people can see is that lazy eye. They can see if the baby's eye going opposite direction. But also back then we had a photograph that you had to take to the convenience store, and so instead of seeing that red glove, she saw a white glove. So that's the picture. My mom, had this one baby picture, and I think for a long time I pinned it on my Instagram before I had
Mhm.
my TEDx talk. But that's the picture that she took to her coworkers, her family members, her friends, before even I got to my 6 month checkup. And so when she was like, "No, I need a second opinion now,"
Yeah.
that's when she officially got the diagnosis of retinoblastoma. And if back then, of course, if it was not properly, if the eye with the tumor was not removed. Um, it could later affect the brain,
Mhm.
affect the hearing, kind of everything that's happening up here. It can spread all over to the face and really
Yeah.
just kind of cause um, all kinds of issues. So thankfully, my mom and my dad caught it in time. I was blessed to have surgery at 9 months old.
Wow.
And since then, I've just been living with one eye. And then shortly
Yeah.
after that, because I was continuing to get like radiation treatment to make sure that the tumor stays away, eventually I did lose my hearing just a little bit. So at least technology-wise now, I use captions. So I got captions on my side to make sure I don't miss anything that you say. And then even when I'm in-person interactions, I'm a lip reader. I was trained to like read lips. So yeah, and I think my mom did say I was about 7 years old when I actually asked her, "Was I born this way?" And so when she then showed me the photograph and showed me her journal entries and showed me, I was also then meeting others who had the same type of cancer that I have because I thought I was the only one. So that was also very pivotal at such a young age. Like I'm just used to living like this, and then I meet other people who also live
Yeah.
the same way that I
Yeah.
do, and then it really let me know how I should be seeing my life differently.
Seeing my life differently. That's so good. What did you learn about the world in that? So that was like kind of the next part of that. What did you learn about the world from that?
Yeah, I think I learned that the world can be cruel. I think that was probably the earliest example that the
Yeah.
world can be cruel. If because it happens way too often. Understandably, we love our doctors because if not for our doctors, we would not be able to have the knowledge that we have to take care of ourselves, to understand our genetic history. But some of them don't know everything. They're not
Sure.
God as much as they want to be. So sometimes, instead of just admitting that they don't know something or doing the research or
Yeah.
being honest with second referrals between the doctors and just people in your circle, it can be a cruel world out there. So it's really just about how do you really choose love over hate.
Yeah. I mean, no shade, but
Yep. I didn't even know that until you put your head down. How about that?
so funny. But that's this part of my brand. For a lot of the reasons, but for me, this signals choose to love God, but to choose
Mhm,
to love others as well. And
mhm.
so once you kind of live under that banner, that eclipses a lot of what you're saying right now. So I'm gonna turn this ship left to come back right really quickly. But where are you right now?
Yeah, so you may see me at least on the video version, wipe my face every few minutes. One, I got super hot light, but also to make sure I don't turn on any AC or fan for the audio. I'm actually at the very moment on the coast of Kenya in what they call Diani Beach. Map-wise, most people might recognize Mombasa. Nairobi's winter is happening now, so most people go to the beach to stay warm. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I am in the country of Kenya, which is the furthermost East African country in Africa.
Nice, nice. And so, really, I said that for the benefit of kind of everybody that's watching at this moment, because we just talked about how you have traversed this challenge that, you didn't ask for the challenge. You didn't decide your way into this challenge. It was a challenge that was presented to you at birth that God decided, hey, she's going to be able to traverse this moment. And you did so in such a way that you are now in another part of the world enjoying winter. Uh, at what's the temperature?
So, they do Celsius over here. So
Okay.
I have to look at my phone in order to get it. So the temperature right now in the coast is 81 degrees. But
81
if
degrees.
you go to the Nairobi, it says right now it's okay. But earlier it can get anywhere to like 55 degrees, which is like winter if you
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
there. So yeah.
Sure, 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 sure. And how long have you been there?
So as of October 2024, we depend on how we look at it. I'm saying as of November 1st, 2024,
Uh-huh.
we've been in Kenya. But the flight landed like nighttime on October 30th. So of course,
Right.
we give ourselves a day for jet lag. But as soon
Sure.
as, the first time I could say I started sightseeing and understood map-wise where I actually am as of
Yeah.
November 1st, 2024.
So you have been in Kenya for one whole blessed year, and this is what made you pick Kenya? Let's put that there.
Kenya picked me. That's a
Yeah.
common answer that
Yeah.
any other African American that is in Kenya happens
Yeah.
to answer, and it's literally the God given answer because I knew about at least the coast of Kenya back when I was in photography school. I did actually study photography way before YouTube was having YouTube tutorials in university.
Right.
So I studied photography, and I remember vividly there was this one assignment where we had to go on Google and do kind of photographic research for a destination wedding because we had a wedding,
Mhm.
like how to take pictures of wedding session that week. And I just came across these photos from this island called Lamu, Lamu. And I just remember I probably accidentally said it out loud. I was like, I want to go there one day. Just looking at it like,
Right, 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 right.
and so then next thing I know, like over the course of those, that was what maybe 14 years ago or so, I started meeting other Kenyans. I started
Yeah.
understanding and like Wakanda and Black Panther movie started coming out, so I started understanding Kenya a bit more. And
Yep.
then in 2021, I got a DM on Instagram from an orphanage that was in Kenya, and they're like, "Hey, we need more renters for the girls. Do you have an open invitation to come meet with us?" I'm like,
Wow.
"Okay, cool." So then at the 2024, well, I can rewind just a little bit more. I was
Mhm.
raised to understand the map of Africa. I was raised to understand that prior
Interesting.
to 400 years ago, I am from Africa. So I then I understood the map and I understood, the history of Africa. But as of 2024, there were two things were happening. Both my parents and I knew that this new political climate was going to change. They've been there, done that. They were like, "Hey, I think we can probably do some long term travel in Africa. And so in 2022, to kind of test the waters, my parents went to West Africa for their first international trip, and they were there for about 2 months. And my mom was like, "I love it. We can do it." And so, may my father rest in peace. He was already dealing with a lot of conditions, but the most recent one was prostate cancer. So it
Sorry for your
finally caught up
loss.
to him as of April 2024, 2 weeks after my TEDx talk was filmed. That's a whole nother God given thing. But
Wow.
after the blurriness of let's deal with all the funeral, the burial, and everything, my mom was like, I'm ready to go, get out of the U.S. There's nothing left for me here. I'm ready to go wherever you want to go. And so I was like, well, remember the orphanage I told you about? Like, we have a people there in
Yeah.
Kenya. And so basically we're like, let's go. And that began, opening the door for our research of how to live in Kenya.
Yeah. Yeah. How to live in Kenya. I want to come back to that. I want to just pause here really quickly. And I, again, sorry for your loss with your dad. I know that even though it's been a while, it's never long
It's
enough to
never
not,
long. Yeah,
it's never long enough. So I'm sorry for that. I wanted to ask you a couple of things, and these things are kind of related. Before you and your family decided to actually move, was there ever any back and forth, like maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't? Does it? And it sounds like your mom was like, I'm out, I'm done now, and that's cool. But even for you, as you were doing it, even though you had what seems to me to be like signs, like it looks to me as though you had signs from God, like, hey, come on, kind of a thing. But did you hesitate at all, even though you had those like breadcrumbs kind of showing you the way?
Yes and no. I mean, just the thought of just being in a new environment can always be scary.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest hesitation, I think, thinking back now, the biggest hesitation came from my dad. Ironically, he was the Vietnam veteran. Like, he's already been across the world. I'm like, what you talking about? You're not sure if we should do this. But
Right.
little did we know that he knew his diagnosis was
Oh, yeah,
quicker than the
progressing.
doctors were willing to say. So he was just like, I don't know, maybe y'all should go. Maybe you just, put me in a home with something. Like, what you talking about? Really? But
Mm,
I think those fears come up. Like, what if I miss another family event? What if
yep.
I run out of money? What if something happens health wise? There's always the what ifs for sure. But again, like you said, it's the breadcrumbs that will always be your north star. Like, literally
Yeah.
saying, no, the more you take action to it, the more things will be more clear as to why you need to be doing this.
Yeah. I love what you just said. The more you take actions to it, the more clear it'll become about why you need to do it. And it's so interesting. One of the things that I preach a lot is that the call to live out of the country, sometimes it is just that, it's just a call. I know the first time I went to Barbados, it's so funny that you said what you just said, because when people ask me why Barbados, why is that the place that I spend half the year, why is that the place that I've been going back and forth to Barbados for 5 years. Why Barbados? Why not somewhere else, Shauna? Barbados chose me. I say that all the time. It's something about it that when you get there, the understanding of home starts to kind of unravel more. So I love that you said that. Um, what about getting there? And this is going to be, I already kind of know, because I know when I went to Barbados the first time, I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks, right? This was December 2020. So if you can remember the time that we were in, December 2020, I was supposed to go for a 3 week like holiday. And I ended up saying, I'm staying for 3 months. I'm not leaving. This is not you can't make me come back. It's not a thing. Um, so my question for you is, since you've been gone, you've been there for a year now, what did leaving reveal to you about some things you were tolerating before? Some stuff that you were kind of just let fly by the wayside, and now that you're in a new environment, you see it differently.
Yeah, I think I want to address two things. One is to kind of address what you were saying. We had a similar thing as well of, my mom wanted. She told me her goal was like, let's go see as many African countries as possible. Even for
Yeah,
a long time growing up, I too was like, let me go to like 30 African countries. I would say
sure.
they were just trying to do under the certain age type of thing, but I knew
Of
my
course.
goal has always been, let me go to 30 African countries. So similarly, I actually have an Instagram post where we were like, we're here for 3 months. And then no, like we renew the visa, we
Yeah.
renew the visa, we renew the visa.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
now it's a year later. And so I think there's so much unlearning that does have to be done for Kenya. I think what people should understand first about Kenya is that remember that it was conquered by the British. So it's a lot easier to navigate because it's still on the English system, the metric
Sure.
system, the monetary system, the whole bit. So it's still slightly easier to navigate because it was conquered by the British. But it's still a part of the Swahili culture, which Swahili was is
Mm.
really just all of East Africa. So Swahili does also mean predominantly Muslim, which thankfully my mom and dad converted to the religion of Islam. So it's also a sense of home, in a way for me as well. But you still have to understand that you are an American in their eyes. So no matter how friendly they are, no matter how many business deals you make, at the end of the day, you are a money transaction to them. So
Hmm.
it sounds familiar, especially in the U.S., but then it's also slightly different because it's not in your face like Americans can tend to be. So it kind of
Right.
like you'll see it. They're super amazing, super helpful. You
Yeah.
can hire, you can live in luxury at East here. You can
Hmm.
be at East here, be free,
Sure.
but you really got to keep your third eye open because at the end of the day, you are the one who got away. You are the one who got away,
Sure.
and now you're here, and you're doing what? I mean, thank you for helping our country, but you didn't go up here, so you're essentially the one to pay me for having help me get a better life too.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that's so interesting. And so that's specific to Kenya. And I think generally what I hear you saying, if I can kind of paraphrase it for people that haven't yet made the plunge to live out of the US or the UK to live in another country, there are cultural things to be aware of wherever you go. I think one of the mistakes specifically that I've seen Americans make trying to relocate to other places is assuming that you can just go somewhere else and just be American. And if that makes sense, it's like I'm just going to go here and I'll be as American as I want to be here versus I am putting myself into a new cultural environment. And because of that, I want to and choose to steep myself in that culture, understand its people. One of the greatest things I did, and this took the full 5 years for me to really get to this. First time going to Barbados, I didn't really have a ton of Bayesian interactions and friends and conversations really, right? It was all with the expat community.
Mhm.
And then over the course of the years, you continue to go back. One of the things that I've learned, because Barbados is very much a tourist island, that's the primary industry in Barbados is tourism. The locals are so used to people coming in to visit and invade and then leave that they don't attach to you right away. It's the 10th time they see you that they're like, oh, you're back. Hey, we'll talk to you differently now. So kind of to your point, just to be aware of that, kind of wherever you're going. So even if it's not Kenya or Barbados, which probably the both of us recommend both, but even if it's not those, just to know that you're going into somebody else's culture. Do you think that's like fair to say?
Absolutely, 1000%.
Yeah.
And I wanted to add that my first international trip to the motherland was to Ghana. I went with a group. There's an organization that the Peace Corps kind of took the idea from,
Oh.
and the organization is called Operation Crossroads Africa. And so while I was there. It was the goal. It was like a study abroad program, a volunteerism trip, and a cultural immersion trip all in one. And we were
Okay.
there for 2 months in a remote area in Ghana. And that was during our training before we even left. We flew out of New York. Before we even left New York, that was what they were training us. They're like, you're not going there to be the American savior. You're going there to listen and
Yeah.
be with the locals to see
Yep.
what they're already trying to build and help them to do that. And that mentality has stayed with me through any place I choose to travel to, which also inspired me even more to make sure that I'm going to more Caribbean and African and Middle Eastern
Yeah.
countries than European countries.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful. And I love that you have such like varied experience, even into and including like your traveling with your family because your dad was in the military and like things. I really love that you have such a broad perspective. Is there anything about moving in this last season to Kenya that has shifted your sense of identity in a way that it would not have had you stayed stateside?
I think the biggest observation in identity is also as soon as I get here, before I even open my mouth, people start talking to me in Swahili because they think I'm from
Yeah.
Kenya.
Yeah.
Now, a funny story about that is in what year are we in? 2022? 2023, I did my ancestry DNA test. And on the ancestry DNA test, it had a big percentage of Kenya, Tanzania.
Did it? Yeah.
And so then I was able to break it down and see if it's actually my dad's side of the DNA. And so I mean, I'm here and I'm telling them, I'm like, I'm American, I'm full blown American. I'm learning Swahili as I go,
Yep.
but I don't know what you're talking about. But they're like, no, 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 look up your tribe. This is your tribe. And so here I am wanting to spend, 200 plus US dollars to get the DNA test from the African ancestry, for example.
Yep.
And as soon as I get here, they're like, no, 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 we know what tribe you are. So
Isn't that
that's the big
interesting?
thing. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
so interesting. I had a similar experience in Barbados. I had a security officer at one of the places where I was staying. He came up to me because, all right, right. I don't know if I have this thing where, and I'm pretty sure it's my ADHD, right? Where sometimes my Bayesian accent it just comes out a little bit, and I'm not as far as I know because I haven't done the DNA testing yet. I'm not Bayesian, but a security officer came over to me and my accent kind of slipped out a little bit, and so he asked me if I was Bayesian, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Whatever. He said, yes, you are. What's your family name? And so I start running through my family names and then I get to my grandfather's last name. He's like, "Oh, Knight? We have all Knights. Yes, you're here. You are from here." Isn't that interesting how you can kind of discover pieces of your identity by going to the place that just feels like the next right step for you? That's so interesting. I really love that. And it's so interesting, right? With your particular story, somebody else would have to do a lot of work to be confident enough to know who they are in order to make a move like this without certainty. Because of your journey, I imagine that you had to determine who you were so early on in your life in order to just traverse being a teenager that I don't know what else you maybe could have done because I really am just wondering. I'm thinking about the common kind of struggles people have when they go to relocate out of the country. And they tend to be identity based, right? It tends to be like, well, I'm not ready, I'm not whatever, but it sounds to me like your story is replete with moments where you had to be bold and then be bolder and then be bolder. So has that been your experience where you feel like you've just been iterating your boldness?
I love the way that you said it. I feel like the way you said it is kind of seeing it differently for me. But I think I will add that, again, just as I was raised to understand about Africa from both my mom and my dad, they were one of those who uh, could have, should have, would have been in the history book for the civil rights era. I would have said
Oh
that.
wow,
But
yeah.
my mom's side of the family
Hmm.
had descendants from Frederick Douglass's half brother.
Oh wow.
And I would not have known that if my mom had not been an avid researcher, had not been an inquisitive person, went to her family reunion, understood her family tree, and found the family tree in the African American Archives Library in Florida. And so she
Yeah.
saw her name, her mother's name, her grandmother's name in the archives of a library in Florida. And so that again, that's all 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. So my mom's showing me this and telling me this.
Yeah.
Um, was also one of those things that kind of keep that confidence going of like, oh, I come from legacy. I am legacy. So I
Yeah.
think they're kind of keeping that in the mindset, no matter what I overcome as well. I think that's also what kind of, has me pushing through. But I think also just remembering too that my dad was a Vietnam veteran. And even before that, he knew that he had like indigenous ancestry somewhere in
Mhm.
there because his mom and dad were from Wyoming. And they pretty much ended up taking it out, down the Trail of Tears. And most of my family now is in East Tennessee. So I think just they understood genealogy and told me that genealogy. And I'm able to make the connection to the thing that I do now. So.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to come to next is talk to me about how you have balanced work with being in another country. How has that worked? helped you lean more heavily into like the authentic part of your work? Talk to me about how that kind of has been balancing.
Yeah, so what for me usually is I'm a brand strategist, a creative brand consultant, and so
Mhm.
that's mostly what most people know me for and
Mhm.
have come to me for, and booked me for speaking in workshops, the whole bit. So brand consulting, and inclusiveness, that the more I tell my disability story, the more that I'm also making sure that we don't exactly put away DEIAV all the way.
Mhm.
Mainly my work is still as a brand strategist, brand consultant. But what has changed since being here is, again, like you said, the tourism industry. Since I've gotten here, my content that was about my experience in Kenya is the one that got the most views out of the rest of my mindset, my
Sure.
clarity work
Sure.
stuff. So I'm like, okay, people really are like, I want to know what's happening
Yep.
elsewhere. I'm
Yep.
I'm probably afraid, but I think I want to do this. I think I want to do this. So that's where the travel strategist and retreat hosting kind of came about. Um, Tapping into that tourism, but again, the ethical side of the tourism. And then the other thing that I've noticed that's really big here is real estate. There are people from the US, UAE, the UK coming in and building more modernized buildings,
Yeah.
houses, things of that sort. And so naturally, how I found the apartment that I'm in was a local knew someone who knew someone who knew someone, and the place
Because
is
that's how that
is
works.
is a unfinished duplex, right? So I'm like, okay,
Mm.
I'm talking to the landlord, like, how can we get this finished? So, and it's so
Yeah.
easy. All you need is a certain permit to just say you want to invest in real estate. And then the same thing for again, because over here Kenya was conquered by the British. A lot of the homes have what they call DSQs, or domestic staff quarters, where people often have live-in nannies
Yep.
or au pairs.
Yep.
So if you have someone in the housekeeping and hospitality industry,
Yeah.
that's major as well. But I think at the core of it all, I've noticed that even though the headlines say that Kenya is at least Nairobi, Kenya, is what they call Silicon Savannah, a play on the words of Silicon Valley, because there's so
Mhm.
many technology apps out here and super fast Wi-Fi. Um, People still don't know how to use social media, so I'm still helping them to build their brand. Anyways, so it's a little bit of both. Like, I'm still getting my U.S. clients, getting paid in U.S. dollars, but there's also just a tug pulling at me about helping the women that are here that are doing businesses, but they could be doing it a bit better. Could be somehow, some way utilizing artificial intelligence with it as well. So, yeah.
Wow, that to me, I hear nonprofit when I hear that. I hear that, and I hear opportunity when I hear that. And I think, particularly as somebody who's, because you're running entirely your own entrepreneurial endeavor, kind of like a callback to the beginning of the conversation where we talked about the breadcrumbs of how you knew to move to Kenya. Um, do you find though that you are able to be more creative in this new environment? I mean, it's not new now because you've been there a year, but do you feel more creative, like having moved?
Yeah. I say yes because sometimes you do just need a change of environment,
Yeah,
to forget about all of the things that are heavy on you, and especially if you no longer have to look over your shoulder when you're driving and look
yeah,
there and see if that police car is for you or not, or
yeah.
worry about what the man that no longer wants to be with you, is he gonna hurt you or not? You don't have to worry about any of those things.
Wow,
You can
wow.
have more freedom to just breathe. Um, and I want to also say that there is freedom creatively here. There's so many content creators and YouTubers and music artists and actual painters in Kenya, and they're so young. They're so much younger than the both of us. Like average age is are like 20-year-olds, well, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So they
Yeah,
really are the future, and thankfully this is a new generation where not all the parents are like, go be a lawyer, go be a doctor, go do something that you're not happy with. I think
yeah.
there's a new generation, a sandwich generation, if you will, of parents that are understanding that, hey, do whatever you want. You've been on the internet playing these video games, but it's feeding us. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, because why not? Shout out to Kai
Yeah,
Sinet.
yeah,
But to your point, like there's no such thing as the plan anymore. That's kind of the whole thing. That's one big myth now. We have been really blessed to live in this era where so many things are technologically possible. So I love to hear you say that you're helping to bridge the gap with AI. For people that may not be utilizing it to its full potential when you have that knowledge and wisdom. But I guess, and I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, but for the record, you are not struggling and living in hardship. And because I think people think that they think, oh, if I move abroad, I'm going to fail at everything. Instead, what I hear you saying is, I'm seeing new opportunities and new possibility because my mind is not full of the things that were kind of burdening me here. Is that fair to say?
It is, and I think I want to add because it is accurate for people to have that mentality, go to a new country, live in a new country, and fail and have to go back. It is very possible, and I'm able to see both sides of how that's
Yeah.
possible. I
Yeah.
think because if they don't, I wouldn't say have that calling, but if they don't pay attention closely to their calling that they're supposed to do, they already have the blueprint of what they're supposed to do in order to not fail. But
Oof,
if
well
everybody
said.
still continues to get caught up in the American mindset of keeping up with the Joneses, of flaunting the money, spending the money because you think you can just keep it going like you did in the U.S., I think I've seen both sides. But I think for me, I'm grateful because of my relationship building skills. I'm grateful because of my observation skills, and the fact that the skills that I have learned from the school of life all are surrounded by the technology, all of the things that are what they call the future, the things that are already actually here in Africa. So in
Yeah.
Africa specifically for me, and I think that's what makes it different. Of like I came with a plan. I've written the plan out. I had my 5 year plan, and now it's slowly but surely happening.
That's beautiful. I love what you just said about paying attention to the calling because that's part of it. It's not everybody's calling to pack up and relocate, right? But if it is your calling, it's not for you to ignore it because you're delaying your best life, right? From doing that. Community. You just said something about your relationship building skills. What does it look like for you and how important has community been for your success in this new environment?
Yeah, so there are a lot of WhatsApp groups now. That definitely helped me a lot with just getting here. I think even the month before we got here, I was asking all the questions, and they were kindly answering.
Sure.
And even once I get here, there's always events happening, and I know it because of this WhatsApp group. And even the same for the orphanage community. Like as soon as I got here, we stayed with the orphanage had the guest house for those who were volunteering and staying. And so ideally it's there for short term, but they were so gracious enough to let us do there for our first 2 visa stamp until
Oh,
we
it's
found a
nice.
place. But that's community as well. Like the board of the orphanage, now understood who we are and what we're about, and connect us to other people, other locals. So it's a little bit of both the power of technology of Facebook group, WhatsApp groups, watching other YouTubers who I'm
Yep.
grateful to say the ones who I used to watch to help me get information on how to get here, I now have selfies with them,
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, it really is. And so just that sense of community of some understanding that most people do still want that one-on-one in-person interaction. And as long as you are real and down to earth and authentic, they will be down to earth and authentic right back with you.
I think that that is so important what you just said. Being authentic in the new environment is one of the most important things that can happen because I don't know what it is. And I don't, I'm a United States citizen and I really do love the United States of America. Do not take my passport. But like, I don't know what it is about the way that we kind of couch ourselves in the US. And I think I've heard some people say it in the UK as well, where it can be a bit pretentious sometimes. In other countries, you cannot get in if you are not being yourself. And yourself doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is not the requirement, but it's something about it. It's like the locals can smell it, man. They can smell when you're inauthentic. So I love that you said that as well. That's such an important thing. How did you find your first WhatsApp group, Facebook group? Because there are people that are going to watch this that are going to say, "Oh, well, she has connections," but you didn't always. So how did you find your first ones?
I don't even know how to say how did I find my first one because I've been in the space for so long. I don't even
Uh-huh.
remember. But I will go ahead and name drop a few groups that are out there and still out there. So I remember when I went to my first, I guess, official solo travel was to South Africa. Essence Festival had a festival for well, it was supposed to go on for 5 years, but the pandemic halted it a little bit. But
Right.
Essence Festival had a festival in South Africa, and they were really good with embracing the South African culture. So before I even, after I got my flight and found my Airbnb, there was a Facebook group called No Madness, No
Yep.
Madness,
Yep. They
and
had
that's
an
the
event,
first.
No Madness Tribe, right?
Yep. Hmm, hmm,
Yeah.
hmm. Yep. So that's the first one. They've been around like since the mid 2010, and so that was the first group where I would either post and say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm in this country. I'm going to the country. Who else is going to be there?" And I meet up with them in person. Um, Fast forward to 4 years after that, there's another group. Well, we all met in No Madness actually, but there's another group called Exodus. Think of the song by Bob Marley called Exodus, and their entire mission is to help Black women or women of the diaspora to choose to confidently move abroad, whether it's for a short-term sabbatical or they're like, I'm gonna be a dual citizen and just live in a new country. So in 2020, it was another community building. I was grateful to be the speaker of the first one and teach about photography before everybody was moving on to AI and all of that thing. So I was teaching them how do you still use your cameras and your phone to get content. And so that was the second group. And so then the third one is there was a specific group for Kenya, and it called Black Expats in Kenya. So that was again made by another, probably she's also probably a nomad. I'd have to look at the members and see, but she was an American who was in Kenya for a long time, and at the time didn't see enough other Americans, so she made the group. When she met up with people, got their number, put them in a group, and so it just got bigger and bigger. The more that people found out about it, the more people were coming to Kenya. So those are the three groups that I still it's both connections for clients and now that I'm in the travel industry who wants to travel and just connecting with other Black women who first were doing what I wanted to do, and now that I'm doing what I want to do, now I help other people you know exodus too.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. What is like the one thing, and I'm gonna kind of wrap it up, start bringing it to a close, but what is the one thing that you would say to somebody who is on the fence, thinking about it, and maybe not aware that relocation is what they need to do next, but something in their like soul just doesn't feel fully aligned or right? What would you say to them? Like, what's a way that they can be clear that that's the next move for them?
Yeah, listen to your gut and make a plan and work the plan. It doesn't have to be I'm gonna pack up my house, put everything in storage and just dip. um, Go to the country that's calling you first, figure out why it's calling you first, so that then when you come back, you can then say, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Um, I would recommend that first. Not everybody can just go to a country and just move there. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
rare because my mom came with me too, and so it's rare for all of us to just go to a country and just stay there. But I think it's different because again, we have my dad military training, and then my mom's already done to a few countries. I've already spent some long term in a few countries, and then the power of technology, where I can take the do's and the don'ts and this is what worked and what didn't
Mhm.
work for somebody else's
Mhm.
story and tailor it to my own. So it's rare that we came to Kenya, came here and just stayed here. But I definitely recommend if you have never been to the continent of Africa, just come for a little bit first. If you have never spent longer than 30 days out of the country, make it a sabbatical first. So
Yeah.
everybody's different as far as their level of comfort. If somebody's already got military background and they're used to just packing up, going every 2 years,
Yeah.
come on down. You ain't got nothing to worry about. We got you, right? But
Right.
if this is your very very first time, you're like this is calling you, but you don't even know how to. Just make it a little holiday, if you will,
Yeah.
with or without family, and just go to the place that's calling you first, and just understand the different cultures and understand why this place is calling you, and then work the plan.
Yeah. No, I love that. I want to throw one more thing in here because you said it so well. How can somebody know if a place is calling to them?
So the word is definitely breadcrumbs, and the word is definitely you have to be self-aware. If you think back or listen back or play this back and remember how I said I saw it on the map when I was young, I knew that Africa was there, it existed, it's Wakanda is real, even if it's a fake name. I knew that I started to meet those people from those cultures
Yeah.
in my home state, in the state of where I was living, and I would start to pay attention to the social media feed that talk to me, the people
Yeah.
that I end up meeting, pay attention to those little bitty signs, and normally that's how you know first. But I do follow astrology, and it's actually where you can type in your natal chart, where you're from, and where you were
Really?
born, and all of that. And there's something where if you go to a certain reading, a person that does astrology reading, they can actually tell you like this region is good for you. You know, some people have
Yeah.
apps to do that too. Like you chat GPT and put your astrology information in there, and it'll be like, you deserve to be in Africa. You deserve to be in
Wow.
Europe. You know,
Yeah.
so those quizzes don't lie actually. So do a quiz, follow the signs, and listen to
Right.
those breakups.
Right. No, but I love that. I love that so, so much. I think that that's a piece that gets so overlooked. People are trying to just pick something and not realizing that there is a leading, that the spirit does lead. And if we follow the leading, then we'll get to our best life. We're going to have all your links and all your stuff in the description of this video, so you don't have to worry about that at all. So I really appreciate you being here and taking the time. This has been a fantastic conversation. We need to stick together. This group of people that are looking for this uncommon life. So thank you so much for coming to give your inspiration and your piece of that human puzzle.